What's up everyone, I hope you're having a great day today and I want to thank you for tuning in. For this video, I want to discuss some ideas for the next Ghost Recon game and pitch a few ideas of my own as well as some popular ideas from the Ghost Recon community. With this being more of a brainstorming video full of suggestions, your comments are going to be super important to come up with the perfect Ghost Recon game. I do read every single comment that comes my way because I want you to feel like your voice is being heard. Also, sharing this video with your Ghost Recon friends would be much appreciated, and if you like this video enough to subscribe to my channel, it would mean so much to me. So many of us can agree that Breakpoint kind of missed the mark and it really upset a lot of Ghost Recon veterans. Now don't get me wrong, I personally really enjoy Breakpoint, but it doesn't really feel like a Ghost Recon game. I've said this before in a previous video and I'll say it again. If Ubisoft kept Ghost Recon out of Breakpoint's title, it would have gotten crapped on a lot less by critics. Breakpoint can be a really fun game, but if you're looking for that tactical Ghost Recon experience, you are better off playing Wildlands or some of the older Ghost Recon games. Now, Wildlands did extremely well and most of the Ghost Recon community really enjoyed it. I mean, we're now halfway through 2020 and Wildlands is still a very popular game that you can still get lots of enjoyment out of, so when we throw around the idea of the next Ghost Recon game, Wildlands 2 is really a no-brainer at this point. This is a topic that I've been thinking about for a while now, and ASQD Gaming has recently come out with an amazing video about what the community wants to see in Wildlands 2. Someone by the screen name of OKZoomer commented on ASQD Gaming's community post for Wildlands 2 and suggested that the next Ghost Recon game should be a sequel to Wildlands, but a prequel to Breakpoint. The plot could take place after the events of Wildlands and consists of El Sueno forming another cartel in El Salvador, and this time the ghosts will be able to take him out for good with the help of Bowman and other characters from the Ghost Recon franchise. This would be such an awesome sequel to Wildlands in my opinion, and many other Ghost Recon fans agreed. That community post has so many more incredible ideas about game mechanics, new features, things that should be added and things that shouldn't, and I wanted to make this video to highlight some of these ideas and pitch some ideas of my own. First off, I love the idea of keeping gear score, tiered loot, and RPG elements far away from the next Ghost Recon game. This is something that I think the entire community can agree on because Ghost Recon should always be seen as a tactical shooter and not a looter shooter. Another game mechanic that's being heavily requested is the ability to rappel down buildings or from helicopters, and I completely agree with this. We want more ways that we can approach a situation like climbing a cliffside or using scuba gear to enter a base through the sewers. Also, allowing your AI teammates to drive cars or fly helicopters is another game mechanic that lots of people want to see, including me, and it would be a perfect feature especially if you plan on skydiving or rappelling from a chopper. I also want to see more stealth enhancing mechanics because Ghost Recon is a very stealth based franchise. I'm a big fan of introducing disguises into the game, as in stealing a downed enemy's uniform, and I really want the ghillie suits to be functional based on what type of vegetation you're hiding in and matching the color of your suit to your surroundings to make hiding more effective. I also think it would be awesome if you had the ability to climb certain trees to avoid wandering patrols, and I hope they carry over the prone camo feature from Breakpoint because that was a cool addition. Bivouacs were another cool idea introduced in Breakpoint, but I think that system would be way better if instead of bivouacs there were hidden outposts that were occupied by your allies. In these outposts there should be an armory room and a planning table so that you can fully plan your approach on a nearby objective and realistically adjust your equipment. AI teammates would work well with this planning table idea and would give you the opportunity to place each teammate in a tactical position once you move closer to the target location. I also think it would be cool if these outposts could be taken over by the enemy and vice versa. The ability to pick up downed teammates was a nice idea in Breakpoint, but I also want to have the option to simply drag bodies to different locations. This would just speed things up while getting teammates to safety as well as hiding downed enemies. This next idea is something that I personally really want to see in the next Ghost Recon game, and that is the option to go into the first person. I know that Ghost Recon mostly focuses on third person gameplay, but just having the option to go first person would be so nice in my opinion, especially during Ghost Wars. Speaking of Ghost Wars, many of you want to see more maps and more variety when it comes to the PvP. I think Ghost Wars was better in Breakpoint than it was in Wildlands simply because you got to customize your Ghost Wars loadout and you weren't stuck with a pre-built class like you were in Wildlands. But I would love to see some different game modes in the next installment. I feel like domination, hostage rescue, and maybe even a hardcore mode without the ability to revive down teammates would fit in really well and give the next game more variety and strengthen the PvP. Next, I want to talk about combat and gear because I feel like these areas could be tweaked a little bit for the next Ghost Recon game. From what I've read, most Ghost Recon fans want to be able to use smoke grenades. This would have been so handy in Wildlands and Breakpoint, and they could have been used to escape from groups of enemies or as a diversion, so they should definitely be included next time. I also hope that the next Ghost Recon game keeps the item wheel because I feel like this was the quickest and smoothest way to access your equipment, and instead of diversion lures, I'd prefer to just throw a rock or empty shell to distract enemies, as that would be a little more realistic. The injury system was also a feature I kinda liked in Breakpoint. Some didn't care for it, but I do think that it should at least be an option in the next game. For melee kills and knockouts, Ghost Recon needs to go back to how Wildlands did it because it was quick and simple. This is something that Breakpoint completely messed up with the excessively long animations, and while they were kinda cool and sometimes extremely brutal, it just makes way more sense to quickly knock out an enemy, drag them into the shadows, then move on without anyone noticing. More customization is another big thing that the majority of Ghost Recon fans would like to see in the next Ghost Recon. Not only with clothing and gear, but with weapons as well. A popular request is a more in-depth gunsmith. Breakpoint did a decent job with their gunsmith, but players just want a few more areas that they can modify. Next, I want to talk about game design. Earlier, I mentioned a popular comment on ASQD Gaming's post about the next Wildlands taking place in El Salvador, but a lot of people also suggested that the game should take place somewhere in the Middle East or Asia. The community also said that they enjoyed the Wildlands style missions with having to take down underbosses before they were able to get to the tougher bosses. I like this a lot, but I also really enjoyed the missions in Breakpoint because many of them were just different and sometimes unpredictable. I feel like the Breakpoint missions went a little bit deeper and they generally had more steps than the Wildlands missions did, but Wildlands just had a lot more to do and more missions to enjoy. Now for the skill tree, I came up with a cool idea and I really want your feedback on it. How about instead of upgrading skills, remove the skill tree entirely and focus player stats on weapon mods and gear alone? For instance, if you wanted to run faster, you would need to equip a lighter vest, and if you wanted less sway with a sniper, you would need to equip a functional bipod. For more accurate long-range shots, you would need to obtain scopes that allow you to adjust the range similar to how you could in Battlefield 4, and for recoil control, you would need to equip a different grip and buttstock. Also, make weapon attachments fully functional when it comes to folding buttstocks and bipods. Something else they should look into doing in the next Ghost Recon game is adding weapon slings rather than just sticking your rifle to the side of your backpack. One last thing I wanted to bring up is adding more character backstories and lore, and please, for the love of God, do not add in cutscenes for every single NPC that you interact with. The NPCs in Breakpoint all looked like emotionless zombies, and their voice lines were honestly the worst I've ever heard in any game. If you just stick with the simple dialogue in Wildlands, you don't have to worry about trying to make NPCs with different personalities. Now, there are many more great ideas from the Ghost Recon community, but I just wanted to highlight some of the more popular suggestions that I came across. I apologize for the length of this video, and if you stuck around up to this point, you are an absolute legend, and I respect the hell out of you for watching. Please feel free to comment your thoughts about this video and the next Ghost Recon game. I would love to read them, and hopefully we as a community can help shape the future of Ghost Recon and help the men and women who develop these games with the proper feedback and ideas. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.